this book discussion is part of a series of events that I call Entrepreneurial Appetite. And basically, our mission is to build community, promote intellectualism, and support Black businesses. And when I say Black businesses, I mean that in the broad sense. So it's nonprofits, it's Black colleges, it's small startups, it's larger Black entities. And we just thank you all for being here today as we talk about this concept of self-love. And before we begin, I want to go ahead and take some time to introduce Dimitri and Mimi Berg. They are the founders of 300 Seconds, a nonprofit here in San Antonio, and just want to give them the opportunity to talk about what they do here in the community.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
So thank you for the opportunity, Langston. So 300 Seconds, as Langston mentioned, is a nonprofit organization here in the city of San Antonio, Texas. And our goal and mission is to ameliorate the effects of negative social conditions that exist from the current culture that we thrive in. You know, this culture is currently producing negative effects in the human, and that is like selfishness, narcissistic behavior, kids adopting adult practices. And so what we're saying is that we're counterculture, and we do that by off of a three pillar structure, and that's simply by creating events that are incubators to stimulate personal and successful growth, and to strive to become an event hub here in San Antonio by serving the community, restitching the fabric of that district or area, and by helping people discover and keep a moral compass. And so 300 seconds is 5 minutes, and the concept is that in 5 minutes, you can alter or change someone's life. So we're just asking people to be human and to interact and to get engaged with their community and with each other.
Thank you, Dimitri and Mimi. And so since he ended with the word engaged, I have to add here that Dimitri and Mimi were the coaches that led the premarital counseling for me and my wife before we got engaged. And so they are tremendous people here in the community in San Antonio. I'm a part of 300 Seconds, and part of the things that we do as far as park cleanups, mentoring, really good people here doing really good things in terms of not only loving themselves, but loving the people around them and their community. So if you want to support 300 Seconds, you can do so by following the web address that Dimitri is going to type in the chat. And also for those of you who donated this evening, a portion of those donations are going to go to 300 Seconds as well. So we appreciate your support. Thank you. And so now I have the pleasure of introducing a great friend of mine, Jessie Moore, who is the founder of Morehouse Marketing here in San Antonio, Texas. She is a young woman. She's an entrepreneur. And I just remember like a few months ago, she had her name and face on a billboard out here. So she's doing it big. She's going to be our host and lead discussant today with Mike Johnson. So without further ado, everybody, Jessie Moore.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of Entrepreneurial Appetite. Thanks for inviting me to be on this, Langston. You know, I've known Langston, Dimitri, Mimi, and Mike for about 4 years now. So I'm happy that all of us were able to come together and collaborate on this project. I just finished reading Making the Love You Want, and I think it's a perfect topic for this month especially, and to talk about at any time, with it being February and Valentine's Day, the importance of self-love and how you can achieve that. Mike, you know, congrats on writing this book. It's a huge accomplishment. And for those who might know Mike Johnson, maybe from just The Bachelorette, they don't know that you're also now a self-publishing author, best-selling author at that, TV producer and Air Force veteran. So I know we're all excited at what you've accomplished, and we can't wait to see or hear what the next book is going to be after this one.
There will be another book, yes. Thank you for having me, Jessie, Dimitri, Mimi, Langston. I was just smiling the entire introduction just because I feel the warmth, I feel the love. So it's a blessing to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So let's dive deeper into the book now. Like I said, I just finished reading it. I think it's a perfect topic for this month. In the first chapter, you talk about the definition of self-love. So if you actually Google self-love, the definition that comes up is regard for one's own well-being and happiness. But then you kind of go more into that. Can you kind of explain why this topic is so important to you, and why you decided to write on it, and kind of explain your definition of it?
Absolutely. Thank you. And I can tell you, it's really humbling to hear someone listen to your words and say that they appreciate it and that they like it. That's when you write a book, it pulls so much out of you, of who you are, and so it's truly your baby. And so to hear that is amazing. Why did I write "Making the Love You Want"? Quite honestly, the Air Force has taught me. I remember one of my commanders. He said, "Don't come to me with a problem unless you have a solution." And so I remember there's been so many occasions to where I remember 2017, a friend of mine, she called me crying for hours and hours and hours after crying, sent me a picture of her, and she was overweight, and it was to her and two other girls, and they're friends of hers, but she said she felt fat, and she wanted to talk to me because she said that I'm honest, but I know how to motivate her. Excuse me. I remember I think I talked about it in my book. I went through a period of dissociative disorder, and I myself went to the hospital and had to seek counsel, seek therapy. I was sexually taken advantage of as a child. I remember my friends committing suicide in the Air Force, and I also had a close friend commit suicide a few years ago, and countless other things, quite honestly, that took place. And I was fed up, to be honest. I was annoyed. I'm still annoyed that people that I love and care about, and then even people I don't even know personally, but just have love for because they're a human being, have to go through the insecurities of life that life gives us. And I feel that our media outlets aren't helping. And so that was a problem. So my way of creating a solution was to speak from speak from my voice, speak from my positioning. And I feel that as a Black man doing that, I don't think that in media we see a lot of Black men speaking in this regard. And so I said, I truly don't care what someone thinks about me. I'm just going to be honest and humble to my thoughts. And this is the way that I wanted to give back and try to curb this mental illness that we're facing right now in our country.
Yes, definitely. Mental illness or mental health, it's actually a really important topic that I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about their own insecurities or their own problems or challenges. It might not even be severe issues. It's just challenges, and if we can all kind of talk about them and overcome them together, I think we would see maybe less mental health issues. And I think it's really cool or inspiring how you pulled from people or situations that you were a part of, and you put those stories into your book, referencing people that you knew and what they went through, and how I think that was all part of, your inspiration to write the book also.
Definitely so. I think that who am I without my experiences, right? I quite honestly, the experiences that I've gone through, whether positive or negative, have shaped the individual that's standing before you today. So, like I speak about my sister directly. Her name's Amber. Uh, Lord knows that girl is crazy, right? But the things that she's taught me, she's helped teach me self-love and what that is.
So one of, I wrote down a few quotes that really stood out to me, but one of them, and it's actually, I think, in your closing chapter, but the quote was, by strengthening our minds and learning how to love ourselves, we free ourselves from whatever might hold us back from achieving our greatness. So that stood out to me because if we can practice, and then this kind of goes into, the mantras and the different exercises that you had in your book, but if we can exercise and really strengthen that if we can exercise it mentally, then, that then frees ourselves from whatever is holding us back. And so how self-love is kind of the first step in achieving everything great for ourselves.
Definitely. So I completely agree with you there. I think that for me, well, I'll take my current situation right now. I came to some form of popularity via a TV show called The Bachelorette. And as one of the few Black contestants on that show, things have transpired recently. And a part of loving yourself to the extent that I do allows me to speak freely about how I feel. And I'm not shackled by the thought of how my followers will react. I'm not shackled by the chains of the ads and the companies that I may work with. I know that my heart is pure. I know that I love all of God's children, white, Black, pink, yellow. And by loving myself, I know that I'm able to speak, sometimes eloquent, sometimes not eloquent. And I have, since I've allowed myself to free those shackles, I've become a leader in the community of The Bachelor. And so that's a current event example of what's taking place and talking about what self-love is and how it could allow you to be a leader in your space.
Definitely. And then being on a platform like that, which you were on, and then that kind of goes into, social media now and pop culture. And it's kind of it's become really challenging for people to find their truths within that, or find their own self, instead of trying to please everybody. And you have a chapter kind of on this, you have a chapter on this topic, but kind of go into how, people that are watching, how they can overcome pop culture and social media and really just embrace themselves in that process.
I'm sorry that the internet was cutting up. Can you repeat that again, please? I apologize.
That's okay. So I was saying, with pop culture and social media now, and since you did come from a huge platform like you came from a huge platform, The Bachelorette, and now you have a huge social presence. Sometimes it can be challenging for a lot of us to find our truth or stay truthful to ourselves, because we're always looking for that validation, which kind of interferes with our self-love journey also. So for people who are watching, how can you direct them through that?
Great question. First, I would say acknowledge it. Don't dismiss it. It's true. Myself, I wrote a book on self-love, and I still struggle with seeking validation from people I don't even know, to be honest, which is crazy. I don't even know all these people individually. But even the people that I do know, I seek their validation as well. Just because I think that's how I and or we may have been brought up, to look for outside validation in some form. But with that being said, because I said that first because I don't want to dismiss it, right? I think that I would just be lying if I dismissed that and said that that's not a true feeling that I feel and or that we feel as people. And so what I've learned to do is, and I like this topic because I think that when you work at a corporation, or if you're coming from a former Air Force, if you're in the military, you have protocols and there's a culture, and it's hard. There comes a fine line between speaking your truth and making sure you still get that paycheck to pay the rent, on the first. And I understand that. That's a real reality that people have to face. I've been blessed to not have to, I'm my own boss now, so I don't have to worry about that one. But for those individuals that don't have that freedom per se, they still got to pay rent on the first, right? I feel that it's what we call patience and understanding and being eloquent with your words. Not patience in not speaking up, but patience in who you're talking to, who your superiors may be, right? Having patience with them, because if you're introducing them to a whole new world, if you're telling me that this is no longer Earth, but this is banana that we're living in, you need patience with me, right? And so you need to tell me and speak to me, but have patience with those individuals, but also be, I hate this word right now. It's really hard word in my space that I'm living in personally right now, but the word is compassion and being eloquent to those that may not know your struggles or the things that you're going through and how you're trying to maintain a level of self, right? And
Right.
so I do think that you absolutely need to get that outlet, have that outlet and speak upon things. I think that there's just a way that you do it, right?
Right.
We're not, like, I could tell my roommate, I could speak to him kind of harsh, right? But I can't speak to my sister the same way I may speak to my roommate, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
No, definitely. And just being honest with yourself, and then you can be honest with those around you. I think
yes.
that's, and so
Can,
also,
can,
oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I was going to go back. I was going to touch back on that a little bit. I
Oh, go
think
ahead.
that the way we got to do it also is to forgo what's holding us back, right? So for you personally, you know this personally about me. You're my testimony for this. You knew, excuse me, before going on TV and all that goodness, that I only followed things that I felt were serving my mindset. We've literally had this conversation years ago, right? So I'm smiling because you know this to be true within me. You know this isn't like I'm just talking to say something cool. You know this to be true about who I am as an
Yeah.
individual. Um, we have to literally forgo things that are not serving what we desire, what we want in our brain. For
Exactly.
example, I'm not. What I follow on my IG is a bit different now, needless to, as you know. But what I decide to follow, for the most part, still is what serves me in a positive light. And so, therefore, what we see constantly helps us. It like builds confidence within us. Like, yo, they can do it. I can do it too. I think that's a little helping stone right there. Me writing this book, I'm a big brother, big sister. I'm a mentor with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. My mentee literally is a little black boy that's watching me, his mentor. He's like, man, Mike, you do it. I could do it too. So having
Hmm.
those close knit items that are tangible almost.
Hmm. So then I think it's safe to say, some advice or words to give people watching is, or maybe you can touch more on this, is definitely what you surround yourself with, whether it's people or tangible items or situations. If after reading this book, people might have to reevaluate where they are, who they're around. Do you think it's necessary to sometimes reevaluate our circle of people and our environment and situations that we put ourselves in order to sustain self-love, or if we are starting that journey or really wanting to go that direction?
I'll say it succinct, and then I'll speak longer on it. Unequivocally, yes. Period. That's a succinct version.
Yeah.
I would say that on my journey, and again, going back to knowing me personally, I literally did this. So the things I talk about in my book, this to be a fact of me, right? I literally did this myself. The things that I surrounded myself, the things that I let enter my brain, right?
Hmm.
Whether it be books, whether it be podcasts, whether it be my IG, my social media aesthetic, whether it be the friends. The reason that I don't live in Dallas, because I'm from Dallas, the reason I don't live in Dallas is not because I don't love my brothers and sisters in Dallas, my cousins, my kinfolk. It's because I don't like the crap that they're doing. And I know, like I talk about in my book, the dissociative state that I went through, for the love of me, I know that I can't be around that because it literally eats at
It
me.
brings you, yeah, it bogs you down.
Yeah, it literally eats at me. And I was just blessed enough to discover that at 18, 19 years old and, have the 28 wires in my head and go to the CAT scan. And my mom said, boy, what's wrong with you? You crazy? And go through that at a young age. And now I know, like my roommate, he just put something on our wall. He put 5, it's so dope. He just put 5 like affirmations that we see every single day. you know, and that's what I need to be surrounded by, right? And even though I wrote a book on self-love, it's never something that you have 100% grasp of, right? It's like not like, you know, it comes, but it can be taken away as well. You know, it's like if you're Tom Brady, who just won his 7th NFL Super Bowl ring, you just aren't the greatest. You got to work every single day at it.
Right.
Even if you got 6 rings prior, the 7th ring is not promised. You know, you still have to, you know, put in the work. I still have to surround myself with things that I desire to be the best version of myself, right? I haven't had a roommate in over a decade. When I say roommate, I'll continue with that analogy. If I chose to have a roommate that was a negative individual and or that was completely different from my political standpoint, or someone that just was completely the opposite of my values, my standards, my morals, slowly one of two things will happen. I would stand up for myself and leave that situation, or 2, I would allow it to penetrate my beliefs, and then I would slowly crumble.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because the people you surround yourself with, you know, it's just, and you know, I think you know this about me too. It's the energy that you're putting out there. If you're spending that energy on something that's not conducive to you, then that then can affect the energy that you should put into your own self for that self-love journey. So speaking back on that journey, do you think you've reached the end of your self-love journey, or like what part do you think you're on?
The beginning. The beginning. And I say that because it's always a beginning. There's something new that I learn every single day, right? There's something. Today I have a podcast, and today I was disappointed in myself with the fact that I allowed the actions of a few, you know, have some taint my attitude and my character, right? And so what I have to have, you know, I gave myself grace within that. You know, I'm not always, if people follow me on IG, I'm not always smiling, right? I have my bad days. You know this to be true, right? But also with that being said, I do the practices in my book. The mantras did not come out of thin air. These are things that I do, right? The exercises in this
Yeah,
book
those were my favorite. That was my favorite part of your book, the mantras and then the exercises. You get an exercise like after each chapter. So
yeah.
Actually being able to put into practice what I then read.
Yes.
And you know, those are exercises, you know, you can pick and choose like 1 or 2 and, you know, do those on a regular basis.
Right.
I think that was really smart on your part.
Thank you. I have a speaking engagement tomorrow, and I literally I say mantras before every speaking engagement, right? Like this is a thing that is continual. It will never stop. You know, it never will. I'm not at the end of it at all.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's really ever at the end. And then I think you had a chapter on, you know, that journey, and we might get to the end of that, but it might not always be what we thought. And so then if we didn't even enjoy the process leading up to it, it's kind of like, what did you learn, or how do you even know this is what you wanted? Because we kind of blanked out during that whole process leading up to it. So I think being present during that whole part and having that mindset of, yeah, I'm kind of always at the beginning of the journey. You're definitely going to appreciate the whole thing much more.
I think that is the mindset, always at the beginning. I think that I remember going to what you said. Oprah had said the first 10 years of becoming Oprah, right? When you a 1-word name, you made it, you know. If you ever become Jessie, like,
let's just be Jessie.
Yeah, you done made it, you know. If I ever become Mike, I'm not, you know, I'd have made it, especially Mike Johnson. So many Mike Johnsons and so many Mikes, right? But in that first 10 years of the Oprah TV show, Oprah Winfrey show, she said it went through like that. It was just, she literally said she doesn't even, not that she doesn't remember it, but it was so quick for her. And I think that something that you and I have both found a connection in is it's hard for us at times to live in the moment. And I think that it's absolutely crucial. It's absolutely crucial. And it's almost fun, to revel in the things that you've done, right?
Hmm.
Whether good or bad, quite honestly, because even the bad things you
Yeah.
might,
The
even the
bad I
bad
just laugh
things,
at.
yeah, exactly. When you have a level of love, you just laugh at it, like, man, that was stupid, but hey,
Yeah,
you know, I got through
that's
it.
the way it has to be. I have a question from someone messaged me on Instagram. Her name's Audrey. So Audrey had the question, why is it
Shout
so
out Audrey.
difficult and challenging to love ourselves?
It's a beautiful question. I think that, well, one, I don't want self-love to be how do you say it? I don't want self-love to be like a buzzword, right? I feel like it's becoming a buzzword, and I don't really like that. I think that it's challenging because we compare, and comparison is a thief of joy. When I went on TV, I was comparing myself to some of the other guys' bodies. I was like, man, they got a nice body, bro. I need to get my body right. But for whatever reason, I have been blessed to know my mantras in my exercises, and it really don't matter to me. And I think that's the answer. That's the solution, is to acknowledge, there's nothing wrong with me saying, hey, he has a nice body. I wish my body looked like his. But at the same time, the acknowledgement of that is okay. But then the knowing that, hey, somebody gonna love this, this the skin that I'm in as well, right?
Right,
Because the skin that the others may be in is not for everyone. The skin that I'm in is for someone special. And so
right.
I need people to know that. I think it's so hard though to be direct to the question, is because of I feel that social media was not created for this, but it's hindered us quite a bit.
Hmm.
I even think about people that like with TikTok, people are blowing up like crazy overnight. And I'm talking about like 50 million followers. And I'm nervous for them because once they're 21, and the algorithms have changed how they're going to compare. And I really want people to know, at every single level, whether you're a C-suite executive or the janitor, we are always looking at our peers and saying, oh man, I can do this. Elon Musk, the richest person in the world, is looking at his peers and saying those things as well. So I want people to know that it's not bad if you've done that, right?
Hmm.
But I think that there's a small disconnect, and that disconnect is, I can acknowledge something that I like about someone else, but I must
Hmm.
also acknowledge that the skin that I'm in is beautiful for a reason,
Hmm.
right? And I think that may
Right.
be a bit hard for people to realize, is that, man, I want to look like that. And then they get down on themselves when really it's, man, I like what they have, but baby, I'm looking good over here too.
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of times we now are really competitive with people we don't even know, people we might know. And we don't spend enough time or invest enough time in ourselves to even get to know who we are and the flaws and the good and the bad about ourselves. So I think if we take that time to invest and spend some alone time with yourself, hang out with yourself, I think all of us will learn that we all love ourselves if we just spent some time and became friends with ourselves rather than always putting ourselves out there around other people who we then feel like we're in competition because we don't even know the good qualities about us, so we want to compare and try to compete against that instead of forgiving ourselves for maybe our shortcomings and then applauding where we are more advanced at.
Agree with that completely. And also, I would say, for individuals wanting to raise their level of self, I don't know if you're going to ask that question. One of the ways to do that is to, outside of giving yourself grace and give yourself compassion, is to make yourself happy. And what I mean by that is, if you want something in your life, work. I know this may sound cliche to some, but work towards it, because you literally start to become happier when you work towards something that you want. If I'm comparing myself to somebody and acknowledging it, but knowing that I'm still good in my own skin, but hey, I still want to look a certain way. For example, we're going to take the aesthetics aspect in this example, work towards it. And then you literally start to feel better. You start to say, man, I did that. You know, I like myself a little bit more because I did that, right?
Yeah.
Or for example, myself, I'm on a very molecular, small level. I won't say it's a molecular level, but on a very small level. The other day, I was out of town. I just got back in town 2 days ago, back in Austin. I have really bad asthma, and my asthma gets flared up when I'm in different environments and different climates. And I was rushing because I have a very busy life, and I was rushing, got to the airport. I'm on the plane, and I'm like, oh my God, where's my inhaler at? Right? Where's my inhaler at? And I saw my inhaler. I had put it in my my little backpack, and I was like, see, Mike, that's why I love you, bro. Right? It's just those little
Yeah,
things
like you
like
got your
that.
own back. Yeah.
Yeah, having your own back literally is me. That's when you could tell yourself, you know what? I did that, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know what? I did that. And I think for us to acknowledge those things as well is pretty good. You know, you got to not only show grace, but be your own biggest cheerleader, baby. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to
You
love
gotta be your own
yourself in that
hype man.
regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to. Like, even if it's, hey, I got my inhaler. Like, even though I brought my inhaler with me. It's not, I'm the richest man in the world, or I became #1 salesperson at my job, or, you know, I'm Langston and I got 100,000 subs on this in this platform, Entrepreneurial Appetite. It's like, it could be something small. It could be, hey, I read my first book ever. I mean, if you want to read the first book ever, this would be a good book, right? But, or any other book, right? It could be like just small. Like, I did that, you know. And when you can learn to appreciate yourself and your things that you're doing, and learn how to acknowledge when you see yourself comparing, but not being bad about the comparison and not letting that comparison bring you down. That's amazing. I mean, that's truly amazing. I have, and talking about social again, I have friends of mine from my season that have literally 4 times the following I have, but they call me when they want, or when they desire, when they want a voice and they need an ear to listen to, right? And so the outside person may be saying, oh, Mike's comparing himself to this individual because they have 4 times the following, when in reality, it's like, no, baby, I'm not comparing myself. I would like to have that following because, you know, more following equals more money, right? But also, I understand that where I'm at is good.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And yeah, and that just goes back into accepting your own truth. Like
Correct. Yeah.
your truth is different from someone else's, and their their purpose and their journey, everyone's purpose and journey is different. So we should never compare ourselves in that process of self-loving, because I think then we'll never achieve it, because we're trying to accomplish um someone else's purpose, but that's not really ours.
It's
And
true. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Just so truth to that. In this world that I've been blessed to be in, I know some A-list celebrities, and they go through the same crap we go through. The secret's out. I just gave it. They go through the exact same crap that I know this from firsthand. They go
Yeah.
through the same things that we go through. And we look at them like, wow, they have the money, they got the looks, they got the fame, they don't got to go to work every day and deal with traffic. You know, they got a babysitter for their 3 kids, you know. They still are going through that. Like, man, Denzel got another movie. I didn't get that movie. Man, you know, Kathy Griffin got that show. I didn't get that show. You know, it's at every level. I'm basically saying there is no level to where it goes away. It's something that we have to ascertain and strengthen within us.
Yeah, it's our own achievements. And then that goes into, I think once we acknowledge and realize all of that, kind of speak on how then, once we find that within ourselves, how we can start loving other people, or loving other situations or family, or more tangible items, how we can give the appropriate love back out, or how it can just exude from us, rather than if we don't have self-love, it's kind of hard to love other people.
Yes. So let's talk about it. I've been asked this question. This is a good question. I like the word choice that you should use, which was exude. right? Exuding to me is without putting forth action, without saying this to you, right? I could look at Dimitri and Dimitri can say, man, like I haven't seen you in a while, but I feel this from you, good or bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's exuding. And so when we are loving of self and we're around those individuals, I just thought of something with my younger sister that I won't say that. But when we are around individuals and we simply are happy for what we're doing, when we're simply like, yo, I found mine, Hailer, on an airplane, right? Just the smallest things. That presence literally it rubs off into someone else. I remember when I was a financial advisor, I would be talking to some people and they literally thought I was speaking Chinese when I'm speaking these financial terms, which I understand,
Sometimes it
right?
sounds like that.
I understand, right? But one thing that was clear, they knew when I was BSing them or not. You could tell when someone isn't giving you the right information. And so that's what we're exuding upon that individual. And I feel that, so to answer your question now, I think that when you just work on yourself, it's a natural thing. It comes naturally to someone else. Someone's going to say to you, I got this today in my DMs. A guy, I put it in my close friends group. A guy said, Mike, I appreciate what you're doing right now in this space and how you are standing your ground and not being perceived as a thug or an angry Black man in the space that I'm in personally. And I don't know this individual. That just was given to him from my actions of how I act and how I interact, right? And so it's helped him in his own world. Literally, the individual, him and I don't know each other, but within our family and our friends and our peer group, when we just work on ourselves, it literally just comes off. And somebody gonna one day say, your sister gonna be like, Jessie, I ain't say nothing like the last 18 months, but like I see a change in you, which is one of the biggest compliments, by the way. And like one of the biggest compliments in the world. And then that's when they have opened up their heart and want to receive how you've learned self-love.
Yeah, I like that analogy that you had. And then I think you just exude, authenticity as well. And that not only helps you in personal relationships, I mean, that can help you in business, in any situation that you're in. If you have that confidence and love for yourself, you're going to love other people and you want to do right by them. You don't want to hurt them. So, you want your own happiness and then you want others around you to be happy too. So yeah, whether it's in business or personal relationships or professional relationships, whatever it is, I think anybody would advance a lot further if they have that foundation also.
I agree with you. I couldn't agree more.
And so I have another quote that stood out to me. It's on page 41, if anybody has the book. Your purpose, page 41. Your purpose creates your ambitions. Your ambition inspires your aspirations. So my question is, do you know what your purpose is, and kind of explain what your purpose is, and how does someone know what their purpose in life is? Because I think if you ask a lot of people, hey, what's your purpose in life? They probably like, oh, I don't know. It's like kind of a question that kind of catches you off guard. But I think everybody should spend some time with themselves to figure out what their purpose is. That way, just following what your quote said, it creates your ambitions and then inspires your aspirations. It kind of just leads your life.
So earlier you spoke to my authenticity. And I think a part of that is because I don't speak the most eloquent at times, and I just say it how it is, right? And so for me, I remember being 18 years old, and I told my mom, I said, Mom, I need money to go to college. And she looked at me and she laughed. She was like, I ain't got no money, boy. And I was like, well, all right. And so I went to community college until I let go of that. And I remember talking to my dad, and I was like, yo, I hate that adults ask young people what they want to do for a living, because how do you know what you want to do when you don't even know all the jobs out there? I'm 33. I still don't know all the jobs out there in the world, right? And he told me this, and then I'll get to the passion part. He told me, don't focus on the occupation, focus on how you want your life to be, how you want to live. And so for me, I want to be a super dad. I think Dimitri is a super dad, shout him out. I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad, a super dad. I want to be financially free, but then also financially intelligent to be able to help others. And I want to be in shape, and I don't want to be big because I want to beat my son in basketball when he's 18. And those are like the lifestyle, and I want to be able to travel. That's literally what I told myself then. And from 18 to 33, I can't believe it's been 15 years, but the last 15 years, what has transpired is that I took that and I did that. That was my main focus first, right? And then when I've always, when I was in the Air Force, I remember that I wanted to be a victim's advocate. Some people may know what a victim's advocate is. I was the only male victim's advocate on the entire base. And that was because I let my passion drive me, which is helping people in the sense of what's taking place against them. That's how I describe helping people, because we all have our different definition of how I want to help the world, how I want to help people, right? And so for me, since I was sexually taken advantage of as a young child, I think I gravitate towards that space, and I became a victim's advocate, right? The only male on the base to do it. And that was the first hint of my passion. Then my ex and I, we had a miscarriage, and I sought counsel. And then that was another piece of my passion. I wanted to be better in that regard. And then, my friend committed suicide, and I was like, yo, I'm tired of this. I'm pissed off, to be quite honest. I'm pissed off. I'm a firm believer that you can take sadness and or anger and use that energy for a great outcome. And with those three things, I just realized that my passion is in the helping humans be happy as hell via not from a comedy standpoint, because I wasn't blessed with the gift of laughter, right? But from a aspect of, I don't know, I'm doing this like I'm doing the piano, but the aspect of knowing that you're worth it. I that's
Yeah.
that's what drives me. Like, I get the one thing that I can honestly say what gives me passion and gets me riled up is when someone says, oh, I know I could do it. And I'm like, yes, you can. That's just like, that just gets to me. Like, and I think it's because I grew up in an area to where it wasn't the best outcome. Like, I grew up in a situation to where, like, I remember having a gun put to my, literally I remember feeling the barrel in my forehead. I don't think I've ever said this story to you, Langston, Dimitri, Mimi, or you. Like, I literally remember these things. And like, I'm like, I'm going from this, and I flipped it to this. And that's what drives me. That's my passion. And then I remember when I was a financial advisor, this 21-year-old kid, a white kid, he was amazing. I hope he's doing wonderful in life. He came to me. He was like, Mike, this is what it is, right? And he was so intuitive, and he was such a pupil and wanting to learn and be better for his finances. And I was low key in the back of my head, I was a little annoyed. I'm like, this little privileged kid, he came from both parent household, got all these things going, but he taught me something. He taught me that we come from two completely different worlds, but we both want the same thing, which is to better ourselves. And I was a hater at first. I was a hater because he was privileged. I ain't gonna lie about it. But what fuels me is the desire to be better. And
Yes.
I found that through just my life experiences. It wasn't, I ain't gonna lie about it. This is why I say this is why I like what you said, authentic, because I honestly don't think it's one word, right? It's just not to me. Like, I just know that the desire to want to be better is what that turns me on. Like, I get riled up. I start yelling right now. I'm like, whoa, right? Like, I just want to
yeah,
go run 5 miles right now. You know, I can, like, for someone to want to be better, it's just amazing to me. And that's just my passion.
And what do you think is what's your current what's your current challenge right now? So you say you're at the beginning of your self-love journey. What are you currently working on for yourself, or what would you say is your biggest challenge for yourself throughout this whole process?
My biggest challenge right now, excuse me, my biggest challenge for myself right now is, and this is individually, right, is curbing my social presence to understand who I am as an individual, what I am passionate about, right? And liking me for me in comparison to liking me for who I decide to date. And so that's my personal challenge right now. And also, I would say what's not a challenge for me is standing in my ground for what is right. But for what I like, to me, for whatever reason, that's a bit more challenging for me in comparison to what is right. Because I believe what is right, there is no wrong. And I mean, if I'm standing for what's right, I would die behind my values, of right. I think the Air Force did a beautiful job with me in terms of integrity. In terms of core values, but my personal challenge is also, I would find that my biggest struggle is trying not to pass on my passion of wanting to be better to my loved ones. So, for example, if I have a cousin that just likes to be lazy, I need to realize that's how that individual likes to be. Instead of me always, every time I see that individual, always trying to, yo, let's do it, let's motivate. And it's like, bro, can you just shut up for a second? Can I just play 2K? I need to allow people to live in their space where they are.
Yes, exactly. And then I think that's one of the first steps to self-love too, is acknowledging what your challenges are, because you have to work on those, right? And just being honest and open. And I think speaking out loud. So even if everyone in the chat wanted to put right now, what their biggest challenge is, I think that's going to empower them even more. So like, for example, for me, like my biggest challenge, I think, is I'm always acknowledging a lot of my flaws. And I'm always like, oh, I have this, this, and this, and this. And I want to work on this, this, and this, and this, instead of sometimes accepting like those things. Yes, I can always work on that. But some of those things kind of make me who I am, and let me applaud and give myself kudos for the positive parts about me, instead of always focusing on, everything that I've always want to continue to work on.
That's real. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
And my last question, Langston says it's Q&A time, but my last question, for those who have read the book or haven't read the book, what's the biggest takeaway that you want people to receive after they read the book? If there's one thing that they can learn from the book, what would that one thing be?
That is within you.
It's within you.
It's within you. What's within me, Mike? That's for you to know. That's for you to decide. That's for you in your life. Like I give the definition of self-love. I can't define what self-love is for every individual, because it starts with a beautiful word called self. Right. But that is within you, that you have the power within you to do a beautiful, amazing things in this world. You also have the power within you to ameliorate negative stigmas from you. And you have the ability to, it's just within you. It really, really is. That's all I want people to know.
Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely something I took away from it. One question we have is, what is your worst habit that you can't break?
Bite my nails. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, well, thanks.
My nails look bad. My brother could stop biting nails.
So Jessie, I I wanna see if we can give some of the people who asked questions an opportunity to ask them out loud. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give Letitia Cole the opportunity to speak out loud. And let me see if I can
Oh,
get.
let's see. Alexandra has a question too.
We could do Alex. Let's do Alexandria, and I will give her. Oh, I may not have set it up that way. My bad. So Alexandria asked, Mike, you seem like a very good role model for people. Who is your role model and who inspires you to be better?
Beautiful question. And that's a humbling thing. I appreciate that. I would say that I think that the beauty of the internet, and because we always talk down on the internet, I think the internet has a ton of beautiful things. And I think that we can have internet mentors as well. I don't think that we feel or know that we can, but it's a real thing, right? There's people that I follow on the internet that, I'm like, I'm trying to be like them, in more than one way or another. I would say, from a tangible aspect, I take different things from different people, right? When I like an individual in this group, Dimitri, I look at him in the way he is as a father. I look at some of my cousins and their hardworking ability, but there isn't. But then also, I ain't gonna lie about it. I've had mentors that have done incredibly negative things, but they've taught me, oh, that's not what to do, And so I think that I would say I honestly don't have a single individual that's a mentor. I would love one, but I have like these two internet mentors that I follow quite a bit.
Thank you. So I did figure out how to give people the ability to ask their question out loud. So I'm going to ask Letitia, I'm going to give you permission to talk. And Letitia, if you could unmute, and while Letitia unmutes, I'm going to ask a question from the book really quickly. Hoping that, Mike, if you could just speak a little bit more about this. I'm on page 62, and it says, faith is more synonymous with hope and optimism. Truth is based on evidence and reason. Faith holds your heart when trust can no longer hold your hand. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I don't know why, like when you give me a page and when Jessie gives me a page, I want to go right to it and read it direct. I'm sorry, I guess it's just ingrained in me now. Okay, well, anyway, my favorite, if someone were to ask what's my favorite sentence in my entire book, it is when faith holds your heart when trust can no longer hold your hand. That's my favorite thing that I've written in that entire book. If I were to speak on that, and I give a story for the people that haven't read the book, I give a story about a little boy with his father in the woods, and he has to have faith that he's going to make it back so that his father doesn't pass away. To expound upon that, Langston, at times there comes points in our lives to where we have to jump out on faith. I wrote a book not knowing that it would touch anybody, but if it could touch one person, that's all it was meant to be. Steve Harvey, I love the thing that Steve Harvey says about if you want to go big and go far in life, you got to jump off and let the parachute open. The parachute's not going to open up with you here on land, right? You got to let the parachute open up if you want to go far and go big. And faith holds your hand when truth will not, or truth cannot, to me speaks to just the entirety of me as a man. And I'm not looking at the screen because like I don't like giving cookie cutter answers. That's why I'm not looking directly at the screen. So for me, at the end of the day, like Jessie, I told you, it's within us. And so you have to have faith that you are good enough. But also there is some aspect that is underlining of you must put in work, right? You must try and try and try again. I think in the term of religion aspect, I think the religious aspect's a bit different. And also the same. We have faith that one's religion is true, right? We could read books, we could read a million different books, but I'm sorry to say, and this may be my own personal view, is that interpretation is within the individual that interprets it, right? And so I think that faith is a individualistic thing. And so for me and for the readers that read my book, I want them to know that loving yourself is something that someone can't see, in the sense of, it's not like this cup. They can't see this cup. You can see that I'm happy, but you can't see that I have love within me, right? It's faith, and it's going out on that faith. It's me going out on a TV show on a whim. It's when you are an Olympic athlete and you're about to run a 100-meter dash, you have to have faith within self, right?
Letitia, are you ready to ask your question? All right, so she's still on. Oh, go ahead, Letitia.
Hi. So I put my question in the chat, but I do want to say I enjoyed the book. I love that it was a quick read, but it was very thorough. And I love the action items also. But my question is, you mentioned that you dealt with 2 bouts of depression. So what do you do now to prevent that from happening again? And I'm not trying to make light of it. I know it's not easy or anything, but I do know people that are dealing with that as well. So I'm just wondering, like, what do you do now?
I appreciate the question, Letitia, and thank you for the words. I really do. What do I do now? I'm not scared to talk about how I feel at all. I have 3 friends, and I call it my brothers, right? And I will talk to them about any and everything. I mean, anything, any subject. And I feel that when we don't do that, what we are literally doing is isolating ourselves. And when we isolate ourselves, we can let our mind become consumed with this thing that's eating at us, and then our mind plays tricks on us. And so I've entrusted my 3 close friends to be a sounding board. And I have a peer group. It's like why can't the biggest company in this world have a board of directors? Why can't we have a board of directors? And that's, Letitia, that's how I look at it. I have a board of directors for my life, right? I have my 3 homies that I talk about, but then I have my sister, and then I'm looking for a 5th member of my board of directors, you could say. And I go to my board with my thoughts. And it's very hard to become a board of director member, right? And in a business, in Apple, it's very hard to become a board of directors member. In your life, Letitia, in my life, it should be very hard to become a board of director member for my life. And so, but I have that board of director people, and I can bounce ideas off of them. And I know that they have my best interests at heart.
I like
so that. Next, we're going to go to TJ Haygood. She has a question.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for a powerful testimony, Mr. Johnson, and thank you for your service to our country with the Air Force. We're an Air Force family. My husband and I, we've been married for 38 years. We are passionate about the things we do, and I just think you're awesome. And so, Langston, thank you so much for the invitation to even participate in the Young Hostess tonight. So here's my situation. One of my biggest challenges is getting young adults to see that there are so many opportunities to pursue success outside of a traditional job. Self-employment, leveraged income, residual income, all of these things are powerful ways to build financial wealth. Why do you believe so many people are limited to a traditional way of thinking, number one? And then number two, why do you think people are afraid to give themselves a chance to be bigger, to do more, and to be greater?
Easy. I love the question. Thank you for asking. And congrats to 38 years. Like, seriously, congrats to that. But to respond to your question, I would say it's because what we have been brought up to know. They say there's 3 different types of people: the poor, the rich, and the wealthy. And the poor, the rich, and the wealthy teach their children different things. The poor teach their children how to work. The rich teach their children how to buy things. And then the wealthy teach their children how to create assets and how to have things work for them. And so I would say it depends on the individual that you're speaking to. And so if you're speaking to individuals that may not have had the best upbringing, it may be because they didn't see the people that they love and look up to the most. Their parents didn't do that, so why should they? And so it's an entire reteaching of the mind for those individuals. And it can be done. I mean, I'm a product of it that have been retaught. And I think that, again, that goes back to the word faith. I have to have faith and I have to trust in this process. And in order to get that, I think it takes a cool factor. It takes people that I admire and like and say, you know what? They did it. I could do it too. But coming from someone, and this is just being transparent, not being rude. If I'm 20 years old again and a 50, 55-year-old individual is talking to me about this and that, and I'm like, man, they don't know that. They don't know my struggles. They don't know what it's like right now. I'm going to need to see someone that's in my peer group that I can hear.
Thank you for that question, and thank you for that answer, Mike. We're going to go to Carmen Guana to ask her question.
Mike, how are you?
I'm doing good, Carmen. How are you?
Good, good. You and
Hi,
Jessie, look
Carmen.
wonderful. You guys look great. So good to see you guys.
So good to hear you.
Here's my question. You know, it's really easy for us to talk on things that we're familiar with, things that we understand. But for people who don't even grasp the concept of self-love, how do you help somebody identify some of the things that they may not be doing that indicates that they're not in the practice of self-love?
That's a great question. And I'm glad you said it, because it's such a true question. It's so true. Some of us, we dismiss it as if like, no, it's not a thing. That's not something that I don't have. And so I think the first thing for you to do is definitely first thing, if you're asking this question, that's good for acknowledgement. But for those individuals that may dismiss it, I would say, again, I believe my philosophy is the philosophy of popularity and popularization. I feel that if you have someone in your peer group, if we're talking about me, for example, and I didn't write this book, right? I'm a 33-year-old Black man that loves hip hop, that loves finances, and that loves, being competitive. I would want to see someone that I admire, not nobody else. I don't care about what Demetric has done. I don't care about what Jessie has done. I don't care about what Langston has done, because I don't think that they have gone through what I have gone through, right? And so if I was in that position, it can only come from someone that I think is cool, right? And that's not what people want to hear. I don't think it really is. I don't think that's what people want to hear. But I think that's, for me at least, the truth for myself is, who's that person that I look at that I think is kind of cool? Who's that popular individual in my peer group that I think is kind of cool? And I honestly do feel that if you can get that individual to read my book, I think that, and I hate to say this, but I think that my book is a starting point, not an ending point at all, but a starting point for that. And thirdly, that individual has to let it out, right? That individual has to, by yourself, or by themselves, and or with or around someone, they genuinely must be introspective and let it out. But just like with an addiction, you can never overcome an addiction if you don't acknowledge that it's there.
Truth.
Thank you again, Carmen, for the question. So we're going to allow Miguel Diaz to ask his question. Miguel. All right, so Miguel's still on mute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the question for him. And so Miguel asked, will you write a second book? And if you do write a second book, what will that book be about?
Yeah, man, that's like, that's top secret information right there. I am writing a second book. I've already started the outline. I'm into it.
Let me guess. Making the money you want.
No,
That'd
that's
be a
not the
good
one.
one, though.
That's not the one.
That'd be a
That's
good
not.
one.
No, that's not the one. It's I intend for that to be my fourth book, but making the money you want will be my fourth book. But Miguel, I'm trying to give you some meat to hold on to. I am writing the second book. Jessie, you are right. It has that title connotation. It is a book on a subject that everyone knows about, but doesn't know. Everyone knows about, but don't want to talk about it. That's all I can say. I'm sorry, Miguel. I'm sorry. I can't.
Well, we'll have to keep following you for more clues. And when you think it'll come out this year?
No, it'll be out. Jess, I got a whole marketing campaign for it. I'm as a self-published author, you got to do things a little bit differently. I intended for it to come out 2023 or the end of fourth quarter of 22.
Nice.
Yes.
We'll have to do this again for your next book too.
Thank you.
So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jessie, for moderating. Thank all of you that had some questions for us. And yes, we will have Mike back for the second, third, fourth, and fifth book when they come out.